Know the law, protect your rights. Today we're going to talk about what every Georgia motorcycle rider needs to know before you get on the roads in the state of Georgia. I'm Joel, this is Jared. Welcome back to the Williams Elleby Howard Easter YouTube channel. Like I said, today we're going to talk about motorcycles and what you need to know about safety equipment to protect yourself, what the Georgia laws require, as well as what options and rights you have after you've been in a motorcycle wreck, what you can do to protect yourself. So Jared, you want to get us started?
Yep, so the first thing you need to ride a motorcycle in Georgia is a motorcycle license. That would be a Class M license, and it's available to anyone in Georgia over the age of 17. Which shocked me. It's older than 16, but at 16 you can get a permit. There's a lot of requirements to getting a permit. Apparently there's a significant amount of time that you have to be supervised by someone else, and classes and courses. I think it's 30 hours of classes to get the permit. But once you turn 17, you can get an actual license that involves the traditional written test along with a road test and then one safety course, and you're good to go.
Yep. So one interesting thing about motorcycle riders is, according to the National Highway Traffic and Safety Administration, motorcycle riders are 28 times more likely to die in a wreck than a car occupant. And one way, I know all states are different, but one way that you can protect yourself, it's required in the state of Georgia, not necessarily required in every state, but it's a good idea to reduce that risk of fatality, is to wear a helmet. In the state of Georgia, you do have to wear a DOT approved helmet, and that's for all people on the motorcycle that are operating it. But not only is it the law, it's just a good common sense idea to protect one of the most vital areas of your body if you happen to be in a wreck, is to wear that DOT approved helmet.
And along with wearing a helmet, another requirement under Georgia law is that you wear eye protection anytime you're riding a bike that doesn't have a windshield. It's required by law, and then there are other things that are not required by law but are highly recommended, such as other types of protection, whether it be protective jackets and gloves, riding pants, boots, things like that, to keep yourself covered in the event of an accident, to try to keep you safe.
Yep. And so let's move now from what you're wearing and what you need to just be on the motorcycle to the laws that apply to you as if you're driving a motorcycle. So number one is all the normal traffic laws: stop at a stop sign, green means go, red means stop, yellow means yield, or slow down, use caution. All of the normal traffic laws apply to you as a motorcycle rider, but there are some additional traffic laws that apply only to motorcycle riders. The first that comes to mind is no lane splitting. I think we've probably all been sitting at a red light, driving down the road, and here comes, a motorcycle shooting in between cars and all that. Well, that's illegal because it's incredibly dangerous. It's distracting to other drivers. It's dangerous to the rider. It's just a horrible idea, but it is against the law in Georgia. Second motorcycle specific law that comes to mind is motorcyclists are allowed to ride two abreast, meaning one next to each other. Obviously you cannot do that in an automobile, but you can do that as a motorcycle rider. So those are two specific laws that apply to motorcycle riders, but there's also some tips and things that you should be aware of to keep yourself visible. We've all heard the phrase, look twice to save a life. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So motorcyclists can be harder to see than regular passenger vehicles. So there are some things that you can do to make yourself more visible to motorists as a motorcycle rider.
Yeah, all motorcycles are required to have head and tail lights on at all times when riding to try to make themselves more visible. Also, there are requirements for turn signals. If you have them, you have to use them. If not, you use the hand signals, the traditional bicycle hand signals while you're riding. There's also requirements that your bike have a horn in case you need it, and then that you cannot have straight pipes on your bike that makes it obscenely loud. And then there's also a requirement for safety regarding handlebar height, that they cannot be higher than 25 inches so that you can retain proper control of the bike while you're riding.
Yep, none of this. All right, so those are a few things that you can do to comply with the law when you're riding a motorcycle, as well as to increase other drivers' ability to see you and decrease your risk of injury if you are in a wreck. But there are certain things that we see commonly when it comes to motorcycle wrecks, and some type crashes happen more often than others, at least from what we get calls on. Probably the number one is a illegal left turn, where a vehicle pulls out into a roadway to make a left turn without seeing or warning the motorcycle rider. And then you get that classic T-bone collision where the motorcycle runs into the side of a vehicle and the person's thrown right over the top. Some pretty bad injuries can occur that way. We see that fairly often. Also, we see failure to yield, where somebody tries to beat a motorcycle out, or they don't properly yield at a yield sign to allow the motorcycle rider to go by. Again, in those type situations, we commonly see either T-bones or somebody's turning like this, and then the motorcycle rider hits them and goes off this way and loses control. That's fairly common one that we see, but a lot of these that we see over and over and over have to do with the motorist not seeing or not paying close enough attention to see the motorcycle rider. And so that also segues into distracted driving. When somebody, distracted driving is something we see every single day with automobile versus automobile. But if someone's fiddling with their cell phone, if they're messing with the radio, if they're trying to scarf down a cheeseburger and they're not paying close attention to the road, a single motorcycle rider can be much harder to see, especially if they're not wearing bright colored clothing and things like that. So we see it a lot, but just because you're looking at your phone or eating a cheeseburger or doing whatever, you still have responsibilities to pay attention and not be distracted while you're driving. And if that causes a wreck with a motorcycle rider, then you and your insurance company could be paying for that. And if you are the motorcycle rider that is injured by a distracted driver, then you probably want to be calling somebody like us if you're injured.
So what happens when you are injured? We have tons of videos on Georgia's fault system and how that works that you can find, linked in the comments below. But just a brief overview is Georgia has a fault apportionment system where it will weigh who was at fault based on and assign percentages based on that fault. So a lot of the things we're talking about earlier about no lane splitting, making sure you have your headlights on, not speeding, those things can cut both ways, where if you're following the law and you're driving down the road and someone pulls out in front of you, obviously they're 100% at fault. But if a wreck occurs and there are witnesses that say, you as the motorcycle rider were splitting lanes or speeding or doing other, didn't have your headlights on, those things can come in to apportion fault to you, to where part of the damages that should be paid by the other party or that were caused by the wreck ultimately get discounted due to the amount of negligence that you contributed to the situation. And along those lines, if you are in a wreck, you can get compensation for your medical bills, for your pain and suffering, missed time from work, all the normal things that we've talked about in past videos about the damages available to an injured party.
Yep. And it sounds simple, like trying to decide what percentage of fault each person has, but it can get complicated, because even if the wreck is the other person's fault 100%, fault for or liability for your damages may be reduced if, for example, you were the rider of the motorcycle and you weren't wearing a helmet, or if you have really bad road rash and you weren't wearing the appropriate type jacket to minimize the extent of that road rash, then the insurance company for the at-fault driver may say, well, if you'd have been wearing one of these DOT-approved helmets, then you wouldn't have gotten the brain injury that you were going to get, or you wouldn't have broken this bone, or your road rash wouldn't have been so bad if you'd have been wearing appropriate clothing. So it's not just percentages of fault for causing the wreck, it's also that your damages could be reduced if you weren't doing something appropriate yourself to protect yourself. Then the jury may say, okay, well, even though the wreck's this person's fault, we're going to make them pay for the motorcycle and we're going to make them pay for the broken leg. We're not going to make them pay for the brain injury because you weren't wearing a helmet. So those type things can definitely come into play as well. So if you find yourself having been in a motorcycle wreck, there's a lot of things that you need to do immediately if you can, and sometimes this is not possible. You take photographs of the scene, because roadway evidence can disappear quickly before you get in touch with an attorney, or before you think about getting an attorney, or even have the opportunity due to your injuries to get in touch with an attorney. So take pictures, preserve what you can, get medical care quickly from whoever you need to. If you need to go to the emergency room, get an ambulance and go to the emergency room. If you aren't seriously injured, then at least go get checked out. During this immediate time frame, you're probably going to get calls from unethical and illegal lawyers that are trying to contact you and get you to hire them. In the state of Georgia, that's illegal, it's unethical, and they shouldn't be doing it, and they could get disbarred for it. But Jared met with somebody today who got in a wreck last week that's already been contacted by 10 different people trying to get them to hire them. So you want to stay away from those type of lawyers, because let me tell you, if you're desperate enough as a lawyer to commit a crime to get a case, then you're probably not a very good lawyer, and you're actually endangering the person you're contacting. So stay away from those people. But you get the medical care you need. You need to notify your motorcycle insurance company about what happened. You probably want to get in touch with a lawyer before you give them a recorded statement. You want to file a claim with the at-fault party's insurance company, or have your lawyer do it. If you have a lawyer, the lawyer's going to get accident reports, all publicly available information like 911 calls, body cams, dash cams, all of these type things, to build the case that the wreck itself was not your fault. Then once you're done treating, once you have all the stuff to prove that it wasn't your fault, then demands and negotiations can go forth. And then if that fails, then you've got to file a lawsuit. And we're not about to get into all of that in this video, because there's 50 other videos dealing with what to do, or how lawsuits move along, that you can go back and watch on our channel. But long story short, educate yourself. You're probably going to know the laws if you go through the class that Jared was talking about. To get your license, just make sure you do everything you can to protect yourself. If you do find yourself in a wreck in the state of Georgia, get in touch with a lawyer that's experienced and knows how to handle motorcycle accidents and knows how to properly advise you. Even if you don't hire them, most of these lawyers will offer free consultations. It doesn't have to be us, but get in touch with somebody that you find on your own, not somebody that contacts you. But I think that's about it for motorcycles in the state of Georgia as far as wrecks goes, unless you have something else to add.
Nope, I got nothing.
All right, cool. Well, give us a thumbs up if this video has been helpful. Hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, we will see you in a few weeks. As personal injury lawyers, we love what we do, and we're happy to share the experience we've gained in personal injury law. To help our family, friends, and YouTube subscribers, we've shared over 300 personal injury videos covering various injury topics. So if you'd like to gain more knowledge that may help protect yourself or a loved one when you're on the roads or out in public, check out our channel or view our playlist of shorts for quick personal injury tips.